Shabbat Shalom. It is wonderful to gather inside here and to warm each other up with our presence and our comfort with one another as we end the week and begin Shabbat. Let me welcome those who are online with us on this Shabbat as well. And we turn to page 24, beginning appropriately with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom,
As we turn in our prayer books to page 3 to be followed by page 2, let me invite Lisa Hirsch and Ray Rose to the bima to light our Shabbat candles.
Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And we turn now to Kiddush on page 5. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahavahu ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'v'ratzon in v'chalatanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Page 6, please be seated. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Together, now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Page 20. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. La 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Shamar v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litchila la 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Ligrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, Ki hi mekor ha'beracha, Merush mikedem misucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila la 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Verse 5. Hitoriri, Kiva orech kumiori, Uri shidaberi, Kevod Adonai alayich nigla la 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Verse 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam v'simcha u'v'zod olah, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, la 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. La 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Ligrat Kala, Penei Penei Shabbat Mikabela.
Marge Piercy ends a poem writing, "The discipline of blessings is to taste each moment the bitter, the sour, the sweet, and the salty, and be glad for what does not hurt. The art is in compressing attention to each little and big blossom of the tree of life, to let the tongue sing each fruit, its savor, its aroma, and its use. Attention is love, what we must give children, mothers, fathers, pets, our friends, the news, the woes of others. What we want to change, we curse and then pick up a tool. Bless whatever you can with eyes and hands and tongue. If you can't bless it, get ready to make it new. Page 28, please rise for the Baruch Hu. Page 31, together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set the course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 32.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu lemadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem neged yomam v'layla yomam v'layla ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוט על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 39, in the middle, responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Adonai et Yaakov, ugalom yad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Page 42, together. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 44, a song for Shabbat. Rabbi Harvey Fields wrote, "How do we thank you? It has been told you what is good and what the Eternal One requires of you, to do justly with others, to be merciful in all your acts, and to walk humbly with your God." As he quotes the prophets, he finishes, "Be praised, O God of truth. It is pleasant to thank you for the gift of life." We turn now to tefillah, so many different prayers and meanings, but in its essence, giving thanks for the gift of life. Page 46, please rise.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi agi tehillatah. Adonai, open up thy lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bikonei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'imahot, U'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an shemo be'ahava. Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol, Atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Mechayeh hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech olim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהלוך סלה. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Page 57, please be seated. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God whom alone we serve and reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, Shodcha levadcha bi'irah na'avod. Page 59, together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. Page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amecha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amecha Tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol ha'shalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol ha'shalom. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We now take a moment of silent prayer.
Mishaberach Avotenu V'imotenu, may the one who blessed our ancestors, ancient and recent, bless those in our lives, our families, our community in need of refuah shlema, in need of healing. We think especially on this Shabbat of Patricia Abend, Nathaniel Agan, Shelley Bloss Bernstein, Bella Berman, Cindy Blake, Edo Mindel Barchana, Shelley Koch, Michelle Connor, Natalie Conrad, George Dover, Sherry Einhorn, David Elkis, Bob Fitchett, Elaine Gammerman, Lynn Garrison, Roseanne Gerstel, Harold Ginsberg, Claire Goldstein, Ruth Greenberg, Mitchell Henderson, Corey Herman, Bonnie Jacobson, Shannon Jetter, Joan Kahn, Arnold Katz, Rachel Letterman, Piper Levine, Barbara Kinberg, Lenny Kinlan, Terry Coleman, Arnold Lerner, Gerald Loeb, Leah Kyla Batsima Vadovid, Shana Max, Carmen Moore, Joseph Perkempner, Sarah Sally Rogers, Bob Sachs, Susan Samuels, Sarah Rachel Botfredel, Ruth Siegel, Phyllis Siegel, Ruth Subert, Elizabeth Smith, Amy Sponseller, Peter Street, Ruth Vernette, Catherine Vecchio, Trudy Yohei, Leslie Waldman, Arlene Weiner, Marshall Wendell, and Autumn White. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Praised are you, O source of healing. Amen.
O say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. O say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. O say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
My mind is swirling as I try to follow the coalition negotiations with Prime Minister-designate Bibi Netanyahu working at forming Israel's next government. I admit I like watching these negotiations and outcomes in all countries, not only our own, and in so many countries, it would just be interesting if the stakes weren't so high. Former Prime Minister Netanyahu appears to be shaping Israel's most stable government in several years, something we can be thankful for. And as others have said, the former and soon-to-be Prime Minister is also forming what will be Israel's most religious, and by that, read Orthodox government in Israel's history as well. I'm not sure which of the ministry or portfolio assignments and agendas behind them are most concerning at this moment. And the work in front of me, the work in front of us, is to navigate relationships with Israel in the midst of a wide range of American Jewish, even BHC membership views regarding the formation of Israel's government at this moment, Israel in general. I could explore some of the key names and roles, as I have in some level before. I simply encourage you to follow the news, the Israeli news, from any source, to follow it. And yes, therefore I choose to not get lost in that maze, but to go through another set of names a bit closer to home. And I realize that some of you who have been here longer than me could recite some of the history I'm about to share as well, but realize for others it's new or a necessary refresher. So I choose my start on purpose, actually, looking at some of the rabbis in Baltimore Hebrew congregation's history. I choose my start, actually, just a bit shy of BHC's first century mark. In 1915, Rabbi Morris Lazarin came to BHC as our senior rabbi, really our only rabbi for a number of years. He served in that role till 1946, and many still remember him not only because they may have been alive, but because Rabbi Lazarin lived till 1979, actually. And his daughter, Clem Kaufman, served on our executive committee. His granddaughter, Peggy Wolf, served as president of the congregation. Rabbi Lazarin accomplished some notable and in some cases remarkable things, most of which aren't what he's remembered for here in the congregation or frankly as part of American Jewish history. So let me start with that which we should recognize. In 1921, Rabbi Lazarin, our rabbi, was in Washington, D.C. to attend the dedication and burial of the first unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. It speaks somewhat of who he was and somewhat of the size and nature of the Washington Jewish community at that moment. In 1923, Rabbi Lazarin traveled the United States and even went to what was then the Palestine Mandate with 2 Christian clergy members. The 3 of them traveled and talked about tolerance and religious understanding, something we struggle with today and for much of our lives, something some of us took somewhat for granted. But 1923, a Jew and 2 Christian clergy speaking to that message to mixed audiences around the country, remarkable. And he is not alone. In our long history since 1830, we have been served by many rabbis whose role in BHC, Baltimore, and the American Jewish community is worth noting. Going back to the start, Rabbi Abraham Rice became BHC's first rabbi, in 1945, 15 years after we were founded. And in doing so, he became the first truly ordained rabbi to come to the United States at all and serve as a rabbi. Given his approach to Judaism and the traditional nature of our congregation in those days, don't take this personally, but he wouldn't have liked most of us. And if you take that personally, recognize, as I tell many people I give a tour to of the building, he really would have disliked me, actually, both in terms of being succeeded by Reform rabbis, and my family's from Eastern Europe, which is not who he wanted to see in this congregation or its leadership. Without getting lost in the whole list of our clergy, Rabbi Murray Saltzman served on the United States Civil Rights Commission, and Rabbi Rex Perlmutter, one of our emeriti and my immediate predecessor, served in several leadership positions in the Reform movement. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten. In many ways still evident today, Rabbi Morris Lieberman shaped the congregation that BHC became, and in so many ways still is. Rabbi Lieberman was our senior rabbi from 1946 to 1970, when he died suddenly. But he first came to BHC in 1937. His service as a chaplain in World War II, his leadership of BHC and the broader community of rabbis and of this country and city really are quite notable. As some of you may have heard me say, and I'm not kidding, I get nervous because Rabbi Lieberman stares at me at my desk from outside my office on the history wall, and it is quite a reputation to live up to. These rabbis are joined by so many of our other senior rabbis and other rabbis and cantors within our congregation who have made significant marks on BHC, its members, and the broader community. I wake up each day not thinking about legacy, but rather considering what I inherit and cherish. I harbor no illusion that I will end up in another rabbi's sermon 100 years from now, and I have no need to either. So why this review this Shabbat? Why setting the context of Rabbi Lazarin specifically and our other rabbis? Well, next Friday night is the second Friday of the month, and so that's Family Shabbat. And so this is an opportunity for me to tee up something that is going to happen at midnight next Friday night, December 9th, a week and a few hours from now. A California-based theater and media group, Dybbuk Theater, will be launching a new season of its podcast. So, well, Dybbuk Theater worked with the Jewish Museum of Maryland so that the first episode of this podcast, its 3rd season, I believe, next week, when it opens, will be about Rabbi Morris Lazarin, our rabbi from 1915 to 1946, where I started. And the focus of the discussion in the podcast may introduce for some or revisit complicated memories for the congregation and its history. As the publicity material for the podcast describes its focus, and I quote, Rabbi Lazarin's words and work serve as an entry point for us to explore the American Council for Judaism, a non-Zionist, anti-nationalist organization that he co-founded with a group of Reform rabbis in 1942. Yes, Rabbi Lazarin's stance regarding Zionism in Israel complicated the latter part of his tenure as our congregation, especially so in his very last years and in his early years as emeritus as well. And so on some level, we have congregants who wish it would not be addressed. And yet we are a people of memory. We are a people of learning and evaluation and revisiting our history. And we are a congregation steeped in history. Surely we don't begin to approach our 200th anniversary in just several years with the hope that we will only review the easy parts, the comfortable parts of our journey. And yet, please allow this heads up to a podcast for which you will need to wait a week. Didn't make sense to talk about this at Family Shabbat. But we will release information when it becomes available, and if you can spell Dybbuk, you can find this at theaterdybbuk.org. Israel's current complexity makes this a most interesting time for this release. However, Rabbi Lazarin's feelings about a potential Jewish state were not based in the same kind of concerns that some would have today. To clarify the interest or distress that might be felt from this podcast if you don't understand what I'm talking about, the podcast episode will be titled and based in part upon a 1937 speech that Rabbi Lazarin made to the Reform Movement's convention, the Union of American Hebrew Congregations in that day. The speech, which except for those in his group was not so popular, was titled Why I Was a Zionist and Why I Am Not Now. Some will swallow hard right now, and others will say, oi, and some, unfortunately, will be buoyed in their own ambivalence. But again, recognize that he was speaking from the complexity of 1937, and he helped found the American Council for Judaism in 1942. The historical context has indeed shifted. In fact, by 1942, it had already shifted, and that group's founding was fighting the shift, if you will. The podcast will include an Oberlin College professor who we don't know, Peggy Wolf, being interviewed from the family's perspective, and I got thrown on the heap as well. I actually don't listen to many podcasts, so I don't know exactly what to expect, and we had no control over the final product, but it should make us think. It should make us think in ways that consider our own lives, our congregation, and its history. Lazarin's comments are history, but they themselves should make us think today. The negotiations in Israel are provocative, but anything but academic. And the great academic, Columbia University's Yosef Chaim Yerushalmi of blessed memory wrote, "Memory is always problematic, usually deceptive, and sometimes treacherous. We ourselves are periodically aware that memory is among the most fragile and capricious of our faculties." And so I invite you a week and a few hours from now, but maybe you'll wait till Saturday morning, to listen to this podcast when it drops. All of us can learn about our congregation and American Judaism's past. The latter portion of Rabbi Lazarin's rabbinate at BHC was filled with bumps related to his position on this issue. And yet engaging with the memory can be fascinating and illustrative and help us understand congregational life and Jewish life even decades later. For these things still echo in our world even as the context changes. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to page 282 as we rise for Aleinu.
וגורלנו ככל העולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Page 293. First, a prayer not found in your book. We who remember our artists, aerialists on swinging trapeze, letting go one ring to catch another. Hold on and let go, a subtle duality that endows our life with meaning, neither denying the past nor foreclosing the future. We are part of the flow of life, the divine process which gives and takes, creates and retains. We too must give and take, seize hold and release. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. On this Shabbat, we especially mourn those whose deaths and funerals have occurred just during the last month, the period of Shloshim: Charles Moore, Evelyn Landau, Ted Vogel, Keith Allen Rubin, Leonard Kaplan, Morton Blankman, Barbara Cohen, Martin Goldman, Pauline Chapin, Ida Yakar, Bert Mitchell-Kahn, Betty Blum, Amelie Bank, Richard Ottenheimer, and Loretta Hirschfeld. We also mourn those who were killed at Club Q in Colorado Springs: Daniel Aston, Kelly Loving, Ashley Powell, Derek Rump, and Raymond Green Vance. And we mourn those who were killed at the bus stop bombing in Jerusalem just 2 weeks ago: Aryeh Shupak and Tadesse Teshuma Ben Ma'ada. We mark the following yahrzeits, anniversaries of a death which have been requested to be read: Carol Bolleton, Alvin Braverman, David Butler, Louis Kahn, Norman Castine, Jack Cohen, Evelyn Kushner, Michael Glass, Irving Golombek, Samuel Heckler, Gerald Herman, Barbie Hyman, Harold Kropman, Lenora Mandel, Edith Manko, Anna Mashkes, Ben Mond, Bertha Myers, Toby Oppenheim, Isaac Ottenheimer, Ida Perlman, Conrad Polaj, Evelyn Rackless, Etta Raskin, Dr. Louis Schwartzman, Lee Silver, Lillian Smith, Isidore Solid, Myra Sonnenfeld, Florette Steele, George Stiffman, Alice Stringer, Eudice Stuck, Jean Tishman, and Sidney Zimmerman. As we turn to page 294 and give thanks for those for whom we have shared life with, let me first invite to rise any who are in mourning or marking a yahrzeit. And if it is your custom, I invite you to rise together with them in sacred community. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra kirutei v'almik malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, bagalav izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omaya, Yit Barak, V'yit Tabak, V'yit Pa'ar, V'yit Ramam, V'yit Naseh, V'yit Hadar, V'yit Halev, V'yit Halal, Shmei D'Kudusha Brichu, Leila Minko Birchata V'shirata, Tushbachata V'nechamata, Damiran B'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May there be peace and life for us, for all Israel, and for all humanity. And may the source of peace grant peace to those who mourn. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. It's my pleasure to invite Alan Baumgarten to the bema to read some announcements for us. Actually, a lot of announcements. Yes. Alan did not write them. He just got drafted to read
2 pages. But first, a riddle for the rabbi. How does Moses make his coffee? How does Moses make his coffee? He brews it. He brews it. Okay. 3 things going on this Shabbat. At 9 a.m., Torah Talk will be on Zoom. At 10 a.m., cantorial intern Leslie Goldberg will lead Tat Shabbat in the Goodwin Center, followed by time to play in the BHC gym. And our regular Shabbat morning services at 10:30 a.m. in the sanctuary. On Sunday at 2 p.m., we offer an Azure concert featuring Dan and Claudia Zanes, who will bring a fun and interactive show intended for families living with autism and similar challenges. Admission is free, but tickets are required. The concert is sponsored by the Peggy and Yale Gordon Trust. Also on Sunday at 4 p.m., come hear Cantor Ellerin, Leslie Goldberg, Colrena, and Bach in Baltimore present an exciting concert right here in the sanctuary. Colrena will present 2 beautiful psalm settings, and Bach in Baltimore will premiere Cantor Ellerin's newest composition, along with Leonard Bernstein's famous Chichester Psalms. BHC members are eligible for free tickets online in advance, and non-BHC members may purchase tickets online or at the door. Next Friday is Family Shabbat. Our service is open to all, but it is geared towards families with children in kindergarten through high school. The dinner afterwards is intended only for those families with children and requires an RSVP. And this dinner is generously sponsored by the Lois Rosenfield Caring Fund. Join Cantor Ellerin and the La La Latkes, our special Hanukkah-only choir, with just 2 performances and limited rehearsals. Check the website for details. BHC is also collecting winter coats, gloves, and scarves through December 19th, and you can help newly arrived immigrants stay warm with your donations. Thanks to our ushers, thanks to our musician, and following services, join us for an Onyx Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Alan, riddle and all. And just, I think the sentence was written properly, and he said it properly, just to be clear. Cantor Ellerin did not write Leonard Bernstein's Chichester Psalms, just to be clear, as he's probably a bit odd to end up in the same sentence even, I would think. And Leslie is not going to have time to play in the gym after Tat Shabbat because the kids will go to the gym and she will be here on the bema tomorrow morning. For our closing song, we turn to page 321, Adon Olam, please rise.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnit Nasa, V'chak Sokol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Adon Olam, V'acharei Kiklot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Adon Olam, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hoveh, V'hu Yiyam B'tifaro, Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher
turn to Motzi, let me remind you at the end of the service to please wish Shabbat Shalom to others in this room, in addition to those of you who've been here longer than you can remember, are fairly new members, and even some guests. You don't know who they are, so just welcome anyone. We turn to Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Mechor Zicharon, God's source of memory, may this Shabbat be a day of remembering our roots and building towards our future. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yes.
Okay, taking everything.